Breezers, how are you doing today? Happy Saturday. I hope everybody's having an amazing weekend so far. So I've been really wanting to dive into talking about the whole 8 Passengers channel, what happened to it. I want to talk all about the mom who is probably one of the most controlling people I've ever seen in my life. So I figured we would react to this video by Angelica Oles or Oles. I'm not sure how you say it. I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong, Angelica. Her video, from when I started to watch it, I'm like, this is the perfect summary. So we're going to react to this video. It's titled 8 Passengers Ruby is Scaring Everyone, and that is definitely true. So I'm going to pause and give my thoughts on this. But this video is really amazing. I will link it in the description. Go ahead and check it out.
These videos about the 8 Passengers channel, which doesn't really exist anymore. I don't know, it's mainly about Ruby, but also her kids and her family a little bit, because 8 Passengers isn't a thing anymore.
Right.
Follow me on TikTok, subscribe to the bell icon for engagement if you want more tea, and let's just get into it. So I have other 8 Passengers videos about this whole topic, so I'm gonna just quickly recap what happened. 8 Passengers is like a family channel of 8 Passengers, and they all quit kind of the YouTube channel after a lot of controversy. So the parents were accused of like exploiting their kids for views and being borderline abusive emotionally.
And this is so true. So I used to watch the channel to see what was going on, because the mom treated her kids basically like adults, but like not even how I would treat an adult. I mean, her kid played a prank on his younger brother, and I know they woke up one morning and it was like, oh, we're going to Disneyland, and got the little brother all excited. Was it nice? No, but it's also a prank that siblings pull on each other. Like, siblings pull pranks all the time. She sent her son away to a wilderness camp because of the prank. Because of the prank where he had to live outdoors. And we've all heard about those camps, and that's the kind that she sent her son to. She also took away his bed, I think, for close to a year. And also, I remember one of the vlogs, the children were talking about how they didn't have any friends. Not one of them had any friends. And it made me stop and think, and I'm like, well, I wonder why. Like, how is Ruby to other people that her kids don't even want to hang out? Like, they don't have friends that want to hang out with them. And the mom filmed all this. It was actually a really heartbreaking moment. And then she didn't even sympathize, like, I'm so sorry. Like, what can we do to, maybe we can invite some friends over for a play date. Maybe we can try this. It was just like, oh, well, that's tough. There was just no empathy there. They took away Christmas for their kids because they said their kids weren't grateful enough. It's been a whole thing. And if you guys want to deep dive into it, I know Fridays we do Foodie Beauty Free Fridays. Maybe we can dive into it one time or a few times, however many times you guys want to.
And whatever, was going on behind the scenes, taking beds away from people, taking food away from people as punishment, making big deals about like,
her daughter, her very young daughter, is in charge of making her own lunches. I want to say she's maybe a kindergartner. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but she's very young. And one time her daughter forgot to bring her lunch to school, and the teacher called and said, hey, your child's hungry. Can you bring a lunch? And Ruby, the mom, said no, and I hope nobody else will give her food either. She needs to learn to be responsible for her own lunches.
What songs are being used in like flash mobs at school. It was just a crazy thing, sending one of their sons to like rebellious teenager camps, which we know isn't like a good thing. So they quit the 8 Passengers channel after getting into a bunch of controversy. Kevin and Ruby apparently have now separated, which is crazy. Ruby and Kevin had the Connexions channel, which after they stopped posting on 8 Passengers, they would...
You guys, that Connexions channel and what Ruby is involved in Connexions is possibly one of the scariest things I've seen ever. It's so controlling and so negative. And it's like, it's people being so hateful towards their kids.
Post on Connexions to give advice to parents about how to parent their kids, and it was always very toxic advice, like mental health doesn't exist and you shouldn't accept your kids for what they are, like sexuality or whatever it is that parents might be.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
Concerned about. Then Connexions, because Kevin and Ruby separated, got turned into Moms of Truth with Jody, and Jody is a therapist who had her license suspended for breaking essentially client privilege. She ended up talking about one of her clients to other people without his consent, and then also was accused of trying to actively ruin marriages instead of counseling people, which is wild. Sherry now is the oldest daughter who has now gone to BYU, which is obviously the uni that her dad works at. She has moved out now. And what was really interesting is when she was moving out, Ruby actually talked about how she doesn't like the fact that Sherry is moving out because she's losing that control and grip over her.
She did say that. And Sherry now, just an update, you guys, Sherry doesn't talk to her family anymore. She put an update saying, you know, she realized that Connexions that her mom is involved in is a very dangerous and toxic group. They have extreme beliefs, like very extreme beliefs. So Sherry has moved away from the family, and she did ask for privacy during this time after putting out her post, because she said, you know, it's still her family at the end of the day. While she's not condoning what they do, and she's definitely not talking to them anymore, you know, she said that they're still family and we're trying to navigate through this, you know, and also her siblings are still there. There's probably some form of communication she wants to keep just to make sure the kids are okay.
It's so toxic, so very toxic, and I hate that. Like, I just hate watching Ruby do Ruby things because it's just insane. But anyway, Sherry moves out and immediately takes 8 passengers out of her, like, branding on all social medias, unfollows like Moms of Truth, posts some posts about how toxic the family has been. She has responded to an anonymous person posting on Facebook about how Ruby is treating the kids. She has responded to that saying, you know, thank you for exposing the truth. And a bunch of family members liked that post, and then Sherry posted her own post on Instagram stories just talking about how she has distanced herself from the family.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the recap. So Jodie and Ruby posted this video.
I want to point out too, I know Ruby tries to silence a lot of people that discuss this or discuss what she's doing. I know she's sent letters and she's tried to shut people up before.
About how they quit 8 passengers, which basically how Ruby quit 8 passengers, but Jodie's just there to, you know, help with the conversation. They put up like this meme about parenting and they take it so super seriously, as if it's not a joke, as if it's not a meme. Like, everything is so super serious with them, and they talk about the fact that like you can't experience different things in life. That they're always talking about how like you have to follow this one specific path, and if you try and like steer off and experience other things, you're gonna like basically die. They also have started doing this new thing. So obviously they talk about the truth, which is like how they think you should be living your life, the truth. You should live in the truth. But they've also now started using
key points, how they think you should be living your life. Some of the advice they give parents is awful. Like, I don't know who would go to Ruby for advice.
The word distortion to explain like the temptations and like the other things. Ruby is talking about how distortion is trying to kill your children. She said, don't attack me and Jodie. Attack distortion, because it's trying to like kill your children.
That word is big with them. They use the word distortion for everything. For everything.
Don't attack us. Don't attack yourself. Attack distortion. Distortion is this thing that's trying to drag you down and kill you and kill your children. We are here to help you see it. We're desperately...
This lady is terrifying to me.
Desiring to help you see it.
I'm just so concerned. It's literally a cult. It's quite literally a cult. She talks about family time and gives advice on that.
I completely agree with it. I think it's a cult.
Despite literally not having contact with anyone who is able to distance herself from her. Like, Sherry is now of the age where she could have left. None of Ruby's siblings talk to her. None of like the extended family talk to her. Kevin and her are literally separated, and the only kids that talk to her are the ones below the age of 18 who have to live with her.
Exactly.
I don't think she has any standing to discuss like how to deal with family issues, because she's clearly not dealt with them very well. They start talking about how she, you know, quit 8 passengers at the channel, and she starts like getting really emotional about it. She said she gave up on making millions to save her kids because they were living in distortion.
You wonder where I've been on my vlogs? You wonder why I left YouTube? It's to save my kids. No amount of money. I'm telling you, I was making.
To save your kids, you started the channel to exploit them and share things about them that shouldn't be on the internet.
Millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt. With entitlement, they were being hurt. With people
They were being hurt by their mom, by the way you treat them.
Advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand. And fortunately, I had a chance. I had them in my home long enough to do it.
Look at her sitting next to Ruby crying. These people are terrifying to me.
And I'm not going to lose them They're seeing truth, they're accepting truth, they're loving truth. And so this is my passion, is to invite you to stand in truth and put your opinions to the side for a minute, because your kids are the target of distortion.
So what's really weird about that is like they were making millions of dollars.
There's that word again, distortion. I have never hated a word so much.
I do believe they were making so much money, getting so many views. So she did all of this, like exploiting of her children to not even really be able to provide for them financially. Like she gave all of that up after exploiting her kids for so many years. They now really have nothing from this. Like they've gained nothing from this, because who knows how long that money is going to last. And they're clearly not making any money now because the views on Mums of Truth aren't great, and the paid service.
Something just dawned on me. Her mom stopped making videos on 8 Passengers to save her kids, but all the videos are still up on their channel.
Has like 6 members in it. For all this exploitation that the kids went through, they're really not gaining much from this. Like, for example, the Ace Family kids have been exploited probably just as much, but at least there is that, like, maybe they'll get some money from this. Maybe it will help them start a business in the future or something. Like, at least there's some compensation for what they've been put through. I feel like from this, like, I'm just seeing exploitation and then like zero compensation for it. She also says, I've been a mother in distortion for longer than a mother living in truth.
And I have been a mother in distortion more years than I've been a mother in truth. This is new. I've been studying this for 4 years. And so I've got video footage of me being in distortion for years before that.
You see how humble that is?
Can we cancel the word distortion? Can we please?
Humble. She's telling you, I was in distortion. I was harming my kids. I was being selfish.
Being super neglectful in the area that I wasn't bringing truth into my home. I didn't want to ruffle the distortion inside of my child, which meant I knew if I said no, he was going to get mad, and I just, I don't want to deal with the kids being mad. That's my selfishness.
And like she's constantly talking about how she was such a bad mother back then, but she's like so much better now, even though she's basically just like a more toxic, worse version of what she was back then. It's like
she's so much worse, you guys, so much worse.
Back then she was awful, and now she's taken all those awful elements and amped them up by like 100, and then taken away any redeeming qualities. Like, I don't really understand what she means by like, back then I was living in distortion and now I'm living in truth, when like both times she was awful. It's just now she's more awful. She said that she was super neglectful while living in distortion, as if she's like a better mother now. The same person who Sherry like approved their statement made another statement saying how CPS has been dealing with them for quite some time, and apparently she leaves her kids alone while she goes on these like Mums of Truth retreats, and is apparently very neglectful.
I didn't know she left them alone. She is so selfish.
It's all allegations, but I just thought it was really like important to mention how she makes this statement how she used to be super neglectful and now she's not, when it seems like now she's really neglectful, allegedly, more than she was back then. She says that she didn't want to say no to her kids back then so he wouldn't be angry at her, but like, what about all the things that she did, like denying them beds and food and sending them off to camps? Like, she was crazy.
And canceling Christmas because they weren't grateful enough.
Saying no to them for many things. I just don't really understand. She talks about how 12-year-olds shouldn't be exploring their sexuality. I think there is a time and place for progressively teaching your kids about sexuality. Like, it should be like a progressive organic growth, and there isn't some kind of a timestamp on it. It's just constantly educating and discussing things with your kids.
They're just curious. Somebody said in a post, like, exploring their sexuality at 12 is reasonable. It's like,
the way she said that, at 12.
What? Why in the world is a 12-year-old exploring their sexuality? They're supposed to be out playing with animals. And
look at Ruby's face. Look at Ruby's face. Hold on, this might have to be a thumbnail woohoo moment.
Little girls and going to school learning about, science and math, not exploring their sexuality.
Jodie also starts talking about love and truth and gets really emotional. They're just like crying this whole video. It's literally such a cult.
Because my motive is never to hurt you. It's never been my motive to hurt you. It's been my motive to love you. But I did not know how to love you because I didn't understand about principles of truth. I did exactly what Ruby was doing, trying to love my kids by letting them have their way, letting them do what they want, telling myself that they'll grow out of it, telling myself that this isn't that big of a deal when it's a huge deal. They're sitting over here lying and hiding and being selfish and entitled. It's a huge deal. Understanding that love equates to truth.
It has to be exhausting being this controlling all the time.
When you finally get that, you will then start desperately loving your children.
Desperately loving your children.
And we will turn this world around.
She compares life and distortion to being at war and in the trenches.
If the mothers of the world got together and understood truth and were like locked arms, like this, nothing's getting through us.
Yeah.
See those kids behind us? You got to get through us to get to them. We have like 2 billion people together of women. Holy smokes.
We hold the line. When you're at war, you want the people on the front line
This is a cult.
to be strong, not like, well, let them do what they want. We need to be strong mothers because we are on the front lines. That is where you are. You are in the trenches.
Right.
And we're in the trenches with you. This is life. We're at war. This isn't
At
a phase. People are being
We're at war.
wounded. My children were wounded.
And I'm just so concerned about these kids that are still living with her. Now, an extra kind of tidbit on the side is one of her sisters, Ellie, actually ended up in hospital, and she's pregnant, but she's got like really bad migraines. So she ended up in hospital and no one really knew what was going on. And for one of their vlogs, they filmed all family members kind of calling in on FaceTime. And obviously Ruby wasn't one of those family members. Like, things are clearly not very good between them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that on the 8 passengers. I thought this video was really interesting because it just like, we are slowly building up to this and now it's just like, whoa, like what is going on?
It's wild.
Anyway, subscribe with that bell icon for engagement and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.
All right, let me know if you guys want to learn more about 8 passengers and everything going on. This was interesting to watch. Wow, I find it funny how Ruby, stopped making videos to save her children, and who cares that she lost millions. She's not making millions anymore, but every single video is still up. She's so controlling, and this Connexions thing that she's involved in, it's terrifying to me. Anyways, let's talk about this down in the comment section. Let's shake off any bad vibes, negativity, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Shake, 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 shake. And I will see you guys so soon. Bye.